Welcome, dear listener. Tonight, we are going to a quiet clearing in a dense forest, where a cozy, vintage campervan is parked. This is a peaceful place, surrounded by tall trees and a gentle, flowing stream. Before we begin our journey, let's take a moment to relax and get comfortable in bed. First, make sure you are comfortable. Adjust your pillows and blankets so you feel cozy and supported. Now, close your eyes and take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold it for a moment, and then slowly breathe out through your mouth. Feel the tension leaving your body as you exhale. Take another deep breath in, feeling your lungs fill with air, and then slowly breathe out, letting go of any stress or worries. Let your body sink into the bed, feeling the mattress support you. Relax your toes, your feet, and your legs. Let your legs feel heavy and relaxed. Now, move your focus to your hands, your arms, and your shoulders. Feel your arms and shoulders loosen and relax. Let go of any tightness or tension. Now, focus on your neck, your jaw, and your face. Relax your jaw and let your mouth rest gently. Soften the muscles around your eyes and forehead. Your entire body is now relaxed and at ease. Imagine you are in a warm and cozy campervan, sheltered from the storm outside. You feel safe and comfortable, surrounded by the soft glow of candlelight. Feel the warmth of the blankets around you and the gentle rhythm of the rain on the roof. Now, you are ready to begin your journey to the forest clearing, where the story takes place. Maya parked her campervan in a small clearing within the dense forest. The campervan was an old model, painted in faded shades of green and white. It had round headlights and a large front window, giving it a classic, vintage look. The tires were thick and sturdy, ready for rough terrains. The clearing was surrounded by tall trees with thick trunks and dark green leaves. The ground was covered in a layer of fallen leaves and pine needles. There was a narrow, clear stream running along one side of the clearing, the water sparkling under the sunlight. Small rocks lined the stream, some covered in moss. Birds chirped in the trees, and occasionally a squirrel would dart across the ground. The campervan's door was on its side, and Maya opened it with a slight creak. The inside was compact but cozy. The walls were lined with warm wooden panels. The floor was covered with a thick, beige rug. There were 2 seats at the front, covered in soft, dark fabric. A small table was attached to the wall, foldable to save space. The kitchenette had a small stove, a sink, and a few cabinets filled with utensils and supplies. A narrow bed was at the back, made up with a thick, quilted blanket and several pillows. Maya stepped out and began setting up her campsite. She pulled out a folding chair and placed it near the stream. She then set up a small folding table beside the chair. She unpacked a lantern and placed it on the table, ready for the evening. She also took out a few books and a notebook, arranging them neatly on the table. After setting up outside, she went back into the campervan. She opened a cabinet and took out a small, portable heater, placing it near the bed. She then opened the drawers under the bed, checking the supplies. There were canned foods, packets of dried fruits, and some bottled water. Everything was in order. Maya then walked around the clearing, gathering some firewood. She found dry twigs and branches, stacking them neatly beside the campervan. She also collected a few larger logs for the fire pit. The fire pit was a simple circle of stones near the center of the clearing. She arranged the firewood in the pit, ready to be lit later. The sun was still high, casting long shadows from the trees. The air was fresh and cool, with a light breeze rustling the leaves. Maya stood for a moment, looking around the clearing, ensuring everything was in place. The campervan stood solid and welcoming, a small haven in the middle of the forest. Aya noticed the dark clouds gathering in the sky. The wind picked up, rustling the leaves more intensely. She felt the first few drops of rain hit her skin. The drops quickly turned into a heavy downpour. Maya hurried back to the campervan, grabbing the firewood and placing it under the campervan's awning to keep it dry. She climbed into the campervan, closing the door behind her. The rain pounded on the roof, creating a steady, rhythmic noise. She moved quickly to secure the windows, making sure they were tightly closed. The wind howled outside, shaking the branches of the trees. Inside the campervan, it began to get dark. Maya reached for a box of matches and lit a few candles. She placed one candle on the small table, its flame casting a warm glow on the wooden walls. And citoyen. She lit another candle and set it on the kitchenette counter. The flickering light created dancing shadows in the small space. The temperature inside the campervan dropped as the storm intensified. Maya took a thick, woolen blanket from the bed and wrapped it around herself. She sat down on one of the seats, pulling the blanket tightly around her. The fabric was soft against her skin, and the blanket's warmth began to spread. The sound of the storm grew louder, with the wind howling and the rain hitting the campervan in heavy sheets. The trees outside swayed violently, their branches creaking and groaning. Occasionally, there was a flash of lightning, followed by the deep rumble of thunder. The campervan rocked slightly with the force of the wind, but it remained steady. Maya lit a few more candles, placing them around the campervan to keep the space well lit. The combined light from the candles filled the campervan with a soft, steady glow. She moved to the kitchenette, the blanket still wrapped around her, and began to prepare a meal. She took out a small pot and filled it with water from a bottle. Placing the pot on the stove, she turned the knob to light the burner. The flame flickered to life, and she adjusted it to a low heat. From one of the cabinets, she retrieved a packet of instant soup. She tore open the packet and poured the contents into the pot, stirring with a wooden spoon. The aroma of the soup began to fill the campervan, mixing with the scent of the candles. As the soup heated, Maya took a cup from the cabinet and filled it with water, placing a tea bag inside. She set the cup near the stove to let the tea steep. Maya returned to the small table, arranging the candles for optimal light. She set out a bowl and spoon for her meal. The storm continued to rage outside, but inside the campervan, it was warm and well lit. The contrast between the fierce storm and the cozy interior was stark. The rain pounded relentlessly on the roof, and the wind howled. But the campervan provided a solid refuge. Maya stirred the soup with a wooden spoon, watching as it simmered gently on the stove. The aroma filled the campervan, mingling with the scent of the candles. She lifted the pot carefully and poured the hot soup into a bowl. Steam rose from the bowl, swirling in the candlelight. She placed the bowl on the small table, next to her cup of tea. The tea had steeped long enough, and she removed the tea bag, setting it aside on a small plate. She added a teaspoon of honey to the tea, stirring until it dissolved. The spoon clinked softly against the ceramic cup. Maya sat down at the table, the blanket still wrapped around her. The candles flickered gently, casting warm, steady light across the table. She picked up the spoon and began to eat her soup. Each spoonful was warm and savory, the flavors rich and comforting. The rain continued to pour outside, hitting the roof and windows of the campervan in a steady rhythm. The wind howled, causing the trees to sway and creak. Occasionally, there was a flash of lightning, followed by a distant rumble of thunder. Maya took her time with her meal, savoring each bite. The warmth of the soup spread through her, a stark contrast to the cold storm outside. She sipped her tea, the hot liquid soothing and fragrant. The honey added a touch of sweetness, balancing the strong flavor of the tea. After finishing her soup, Maya set the empty bowl aside and leaned back in her seat, holding the cup of tea with both hands. She looked around the campervan, taking in the cozy scene. The candles provided just enough light to see clearly, but their soft glow made the interior feel intimate and warm. She reached for one of the books she had placed on the table earlier. It was a small, leather-bound volume with yellowed pages. The cover was worn and soft to the touch. She opened the book and began to read, the candlelight illuminating the text. The storm outside showed no signs of letting up. The rain continued to fall heavily, and the wind roared through the trees. But inside the camper van, it was peaceful and quiet. The only sounds were the soft rustling of the pages as Maya read, and the occasional creak of the camper van as it shifted slightly in the wind. As she read, Maya occasionally glanced up, checking on the candles and making sure they were burning safely. The flames danced slightly in the draft from the windows, but they remained steady. After some time, she set the book down and finished her tea. She stood up, taking the empty bowl and cup to the kitchenette. She rinsed them with water from the sink, setting them on a small drying rack to dry. She then returned to the table, adjusting the blanket around her shoulders. Maya picked up her notebook and a pen. She opened the notebook to a blank page and began to write, the pen scratching softly against the paper. The candlelight provided just enough illumination for her to see clearly, and she wrote slowly and deliberately. The storm continued its relentless assault outside, but inside the camper van, it was a haven of warmth and light. The rain and wind were a constant presence, but they were distant and muffled by the walls of the camper van. The candles flickered steadily, casting their soft glow over the scene. Maya wrote for some time, the storm outside a constant reminder of the harsh world beyond the camper van. She paused occasionally to stretch or to adjust the blanket, but she remained focused on her writing. The camper van was her sanctuary, a small bubble of light and warmth in the midst of the storm. Maya closed her notebook and set it aside on the small table. She blew out a few candles, leaving just enough light to see around the camper van. She stood up and stretched, feeling the warmth of the blanket around her shoulders. She decided to organize some of her grandfather's belongings stored in the camper van. She opened a small cabinet above the kitchenette, where she found a stack of old maps, journals, and papers. The maps were yellowed and frayed at the edges, clearly well used. As she sorted through the papers, she discovered an old, leather-bound journal hidden at the bottom of the stack. The journal was worn, the leather cover cracked and aged. She pulled it out and carried it to the bed at the back of the camper van. As she lit a few more candles and placed them around the bed, creating a warm glow in the small space. She sat down on the edge of the bed, still wrapped in the thick, woolen blanket. She opened the journal carefully, the pages brittle and yellowed with age. The first page of the journal had her grandfather's name written in neat, cursive handwriting. The ink was faded, but still legible. Maya turned the pages slowly, reading the entries written in her grandfather's familiar handwriting. The journal detailed her grandfather's adventures, his travels to various remote locations, and his search for a legendary artifact. Each entry was dated, providing a chronological account of his journey. He described the places he visited in great detail, noting the landscapes, the people he met, and the challenges he faced. As she read further, Maya noticed a folded piece of paper tucked between the pages. She carefully unfolded it, revealing a detailed map. The map was hand-drawn, showing a remote area with marked trails and notes in the margins. The notes included coordinates, landmarks, and brief descriptions of key locations. She spread the map out on the bed, using small objects to hold down the corners. The map's paper was thin and delicate, but the ink was still clear. The marked trails and notes provided a clear path, leading to what her grandfather believed to be the location of the artifact. Maya continued to read the journal, following her grandfather's progress as he got closer to his goal. He described finding clues that led him to believe he was on the right track, and the sense of anticipation and excitement that grew with each discovery. The candles flickered gently, casting soft shadows on the pages of the journal and the map. The storm outside continued, but the sounds of the rain and wind were muted by the thick walls of the campervan. The interior of the campervan was warm and well lit, a stark contrast to the dark, stormy night outside. As she reached the final entries in the journal,